dashboard for eGM. As I go, if there's any questions, just shout out and stop me and ask as we go. Otherwise, you'll get off the session and go, I should have asked that question. There's no dumb questions, so just feel free to ask away as I go through. So as a salesperson, when you log in of a day, you're going to see all of your overdue activities and any new leads that have been allocated to you. So when a lead comes in off the internet source, whether it's a car sales, like an AutoGate lead, website lead, manufacturer lead, they all go through management to be verified and then allocated to the sales team. So what I'm going to run you through first is how to create a new customer, and I'll come back to your overdue activities and your new leads in just a moment. So if you're sitting in a dealership and a customer walks in, I just want to show you how you're going to capture a customer's details. So there's two ways to do it. You can either go to the left-hand side, customers tab, or you can go on the right-hand side. There's a little shortcut, which is adding a new customer. So I'm just going to use a shortcut for today and go new customer, and it's going to be a few mandatory fields. It's going to be their first name, their surname. The addresses are linked to Google, so they will start pre-populating. So you can try and find those from the drop-downs. You can override those though. Email address is going to be a mandatory field, and so is phone number. So that's a basic requirement of what you need to capture for a customer to be able to create a new customer in the system. So I've just captured those details here. The gender, date of birth, customer type, and customer number aren't always necessary, but if it is a retail customer or a fleet customer, you can select that from the drop down, but it's just not a mandatory at this stage. I hit continue. It's always going to bring up a duplicate check. The reason for this system is we don't want to have duplicates and have data being corrupted. So we always do a duplicate check. This is based off the two primary things that follow a customer around for the longest, which is their email address and their phone number. So what we can do is if we see it's a duplicate and the customer's been in here before, we can either select that customer and create a new inquiry, or we can say, no, this is actually a new customer. This is not a duplicate, and we can override that. So if the lead comes in via a web source, all of these details will already be pre-populated for you, but we're considering it as a walk-in today. We're going to have to capture whether it's a new or used and what make it is. So I'll say it's a BMW and the customer is looking at the M3. The specs and transmission and things you can fill in if you like. If you don't want to, that's just the mandatory fields that we have is new or used, make and model. Marketing details. So this is really important to capture, guys. So don't try and fudge through this. We use this for a lot of the marketing purposes and to be able to report on where these lead sources are coming from. So it's a good idea to select the method of contact. So we'll say it was a walk-in. If this was an internet lead, this would already be captured for you, those fields. The source of the inquiry is what were they looking at? What was the motivation for them to come in? So they might have been looking at a car sales ad and that motivated them to come in to the dealership. The change cycle is another feature which often gets overlooked. In your preliminary discussions with a customer, if they discuss financing, it's really important if they say, I'm looking at a 5-year lease, even if you don't convert that customer, if you've captured that information, the system will automatically trigger a follow-up 3 months earlier than the change cycle is going to occur. So even if they've bought elsewhere, maybe to do with stock, the system will say this customer is likely to be back in the market, so let's start contacting them again. So it's a good idea and another option for you to convert that customer down the track if you don't convert them in this sale. So you can capture the change cycle. If the customer mentions they're interested in golf or any track days, you never know, in the future there might be an event which you can then target for that customer. Company purchase. If the purchase is a company or if it's a fleet purchase, the company details are required and the customer will be attached. So the company will be the entity. So you have the ABN, company name, email address of the customer, phone number, etc. Trading details, if there's any trading being pushed in through the system, that will be populated here. If at any point you want to manually capture the trading details, you can do that here at this point. Customer notes is a really important one. We'll see the best salespeople take the most detailed notes. This is always good practice for you building rapport with the customer. Anything like, Cian has 2 kids at home, lives in Brisbane. So next time you chat to Cian, you can just touch on that personal topic there and start conversation. Customers love it. So if you're using the mobile app, you can do voice dictation and that will populate those notes for you as well. Scrolling down to the privacy statement, this is always a really important one. There's always an inferred agreement that when you're chatting with a customer and you're capturing their details, that you may contact them from time to time. If the customer communicates and says, I'm happy to give you my details, it's really important for you to allow that. If they do happen to say, I'm happy to give you my details, but I don't want to be contacted, it's really important. There's big fines attached to it if you contact a customer and they've not consented to your contact. So if they decide at any point they don't want to be contacted by post or telephone or email, please make sure that you opt out at this point. I'm going to hit submit. It's always going to ask me to forward schedule one follow-up for the future. So if the customers come in for a walk-in, I know that I need to contact them in 24 hours to follow them up. So for example, I use the drop downs on the right-hand side. So the purpose of today's inquiry was they called in to see a range. You can also free type here. So they called in to see the M3. And then it's just following the bouncy ball. Was the customer introduced to management? Yes or no? Did they do a test drive? Yes or no? Quoting is not formal quoting through ERA. It'll just be if you've discussed pricing or financing, you can select yes. Whether a sale's been made or a delivery's been made on that first contact. I hit next. Now it's always going to ask me when I'm going to contact the customer next. If the customer came in today to look at a new range, I'm going to follow them up tomorrow. And I choose an appointment time. And I'm going to call them tomorrow to, see if they're going to come in for a test drive. So I'm going to use the drop downs again. And I can just scroll down. Oops, sorry. I'm going to arrange a test drive in M3 tomorrow. So they're on their lunch break today, but they're going to come in tomorrow and arrange test drive. So I'm going to call them at 9 o'clock and I hit submit. So that's the whole process of adding in a new customer. It's obviously a lot quicker than that because I was talking my way through it, but you capture those minimum details and then the importance of following up those leads. So it's out of sight, out of mind until tomorrow's diary. And the reason why we keep things just for today is that we don't want to overwhelm people with a list of things that they have to do. You just want to focus on today and trust that the system's going to remind you tomorrow that you need to do some activity. So you'll see here, this is my diary. This is broken up into 3 sections. So it will be your to-do list, which is your today. This is what you have to do. Any of your overdue activities will be here. Hopefully you don't have 138 like I do. And any of your completed tasks will be in the bottom section. So what I'm going to do is run from left to right and explain this diary section to you. The diary is basically the engine room of eGM Manners. So apart from adding a new customer, you're likely to spend most of your day in your diary section. And what you can see on the left-hand side is there's an appointment time. If it's red, it's overdue. I haven't actioned that. So if it's an appointment time, it's usually an incoming visit or a specified time that you said that you're going to contact the customer. The tile on the left-hand side here, these are all indicative of where you're at with the stage to the sale. So the yellow sign means that you have delivered the vehicle. So this will be your post-delivery follow-ups. The green means that you have sold the vehicle, but it hasn't been delivered. Red means that you've marked the customer as lost. And I'll come back and touch on this in just a moment. Grey means that you haven't done any activities. There's been no test drive. There's been no sale. There's been no quote. It's just literally in the early stages of discussion with that customer. And the orange means that you have discussed pricing they've met with a business manager, whether you've discussed pricing loosely, whether you've formally quoted them, whatnot, you'll be able to see at what stage of the sale you're at. Now you might be looking at this NC13 or NC9. This means new customer. So it will be NC13, which is a new customer. You've done 13 follow-ups or activities to get this customer to be a post-delivery. You've done 9 contacts with this customer to get them to be sold. 47 contacts with this customer and they end up being lost. So if it's a PP, it's a previous prospect. So it's a customer who's already been inside the dealership. NC is new customer. So you'll see here the customer's details. If I hover over this, I'm going to get a snapshot. Make a liar of me. There'll be a snapshot usually pop up here and it'll have any notes attached to that customer will pop up and you can get a brief overview before you contact them. The notes section obviously is going to be what you've put into your diary entry for what the next follow-up will be and now how to action those outstanding follow-ups or what you have to do for today. So if this is a follow-up phone call post-delivery, I'm going to call the customer. Now it's important at this point, each action that you do inside the diary is going to count as an activity in your reports. So even if you do contact the customer and they don't answer, it's really important to track that you've actually attempted to contact that customer. So if you can't get through to them, you've made a phone call, press X and then save and then put it in for later in the day to call them again. So it will count as an activity and your manager will be able to see the activity you've done on that customer's profile. So for now, I'm going to say I'm going to action this this telephone call. So I'll hit call and I've spoken to the customer. Yes, I contacted the client. I'm already delivered the car. So these are just my post-delivery follow-ups. So none of these things have occurred. I hit next. I'm going to now contact the customer in a month's time to do my 1 month follow-up. Choose an appointment time. I don't want to put an appointment time because I don't know when I'm going to be doing that day or when I'm going to be calling. So I'm going to do 1 month post-delivery follow-up. Oops. And then I hit save, and now that's actioned and it's out of sight, out of mind until next month when it'll pop up in my diary. Everything making sense so far? Guys?
Yeah, makes sense.
Sian,
Yes.
just a question. You mentioned about that X at the end. What was that under the actions? What was that for?
So the activity is tracked in the system. So management
Yes.
can see what activity has been done on that on the activity report. So even if you are unable to reach the customer, it's really important to count towards your activity that you actually have attempted that call. So always try to log that activity so you know that you actually have completed one of the activities that were in the tasks for today.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Perfect.
No worries. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pop into the customer record and just show you something in here. So I'm going to pop into the customer record. So this will bring you up about the customer. It will say they're an active customer, what they're looking at, any vehicle requirements. And this is the little pipeline of where you're at in sales. So you'll see this skip the test drive. So you don't have to do this flow. So you can go straight from bring a prospect to quoting and selling the car and delivering the car, or you can do a test drive. It'll just show you what you've done. At any point, if you need to change the customer's details or update any of the information, you can do that in the privacy section, in the primary customer details section. The marketing section here, again, if you need to update any of this for any reason, if the customer at a later stage tells you they don't want you to contact them again, it's really important to come back in here to the privacy and opt out of those to avoid any fines or penalties. Company purchase, they may decide that they want to put the car purchase into a company name, so you can update those here. And the relationships tab is if you may be dealing with a husband and wife or a mother and a daughter, you can link those customers. So you'll be able to see if there's a relationship between any of those customers. Vehicles. So if it is an internet lead, the vehicle details will already be pushed through the system, and you'll be able to see what type of vehicle they're after. If they at any point change their mind, they may have driven a petrol and now they're looking at a diesel variant, you can change all the specs of the vehicle here. Another thing to note is that you can have multiple inquiries open against the same customer. So example, like I just mentioned, they might be looking at a diesel now instead of a petrol variant. You can add a new inquiry and you'll see here the history of their vehicles will be here. So I open one here and there's a sold one here in this status for the BMW has been sold, the delivery. You can open up that inquiry or you can delete that inquiry or you can just add a new vehicle here. At the point of sale, it will ask you to select which vehicle they actually ended up going with, and then you can select the vehicle from that point. The trade-in details are the same. There can be multiple trade-ins. There might be 2 cars they want to trade in against this sale, so you can add multiple trade-ins here. The notes section is always going to be date and time stamped, so it'll be the owner of that customer record, which will be the salesperson, the date and the time that note was done. The history tab is a good one as well. It's the diary is going to show you all of your diary activities against the customer. It will show you what you have upcoming, what you've already completed. So you'll see here they've walked in, it was a telephone call, and where you're at, how many times you've contacted that customer. The communication section, so if there's any marketing or email campaign sent out through the system, it'll also date and timestamp any communications that you have with the customer. If you send an SMS through the system, it'll also date and timestamp that in the customer profile. Test drives will also be here. So history of all your test drives, you'll be able to look at that, what vehicle they test drove, the start and end date, and you can view those reports as well. Just shifting up to the top, if you have the ability, I'm not sure, Andrew, if you have them set up so they can email the customer directly from the system, but you can. Yep. So you can send an email directly from the customer record. You can populate any of the emails with the drop downs and the templates that we have listed. You can add a new diary entry if you need to. And I just want to show you this. If you want to, for example, you've been dealing with this customer, I'm going to show you a different example because that's not a good one because it's sold already. This one here. So you'll see this customer has been marked as lost. So what we often see in the industry is sales will have a conflict of personality with a customer. They might be fed up or they might feel that they've contacted them enough and the customer's not moving. our research shows that until a customer tells you, please don't contact me or I've purchased elsewhere, they're likely to still be in the market. People won't tend to take your phone calls or SMS replies or anything like that if they're no longer in the market. So it just shows the persistence of these customers, the high likelihood after 14 contacts even, they are to still be able to be converted. This customer's been marked as lost by a salesperson, obviously for a reason that's not to do with the personality conflict. But if the event that you ever do have a conflict personality and you don't want to work with that customer, or you don't think you're going to convert them, don't mark them as lost. Ask the manager to transfer that lead to someone else who might be able to, might be someone who speaks Mandarin and you can't communicate clearly with the customer and there's a Mandarin speaking salesperson. Please don't mark them as lost or try to take them out of your diary. Please try and speak to a manager and have them allocated to a different salesperson. If this customer has said to you, I have purchased from BMW down the road because they had stock, your delivery time was too long, you can manipulate that customer here. And it's going to say, where do you want to send them to? So it's going to say, I want to either transfer it to a different salesperson for them to do because I'm fed up with this person. You can send it to the marketing or you can send it to the archive. Now, the marketing one's a good one to send it to. It will come out of your diary, but they will still be active in the database. So if they do come back into the dealership, they can still be contacted. If you archive them, the likelihood of being able to market to them in the future, it has been minimized. So it's really important to manipulate that customer record appropriately. Now, in saying that, once you mark the customer as lost, a manager does need to approve that. So a manager might go, well, CN, you only contacted them twice. Why are you marking them as lost? They haven't bought somewhere else. What's going on? So until the manager approves that lead as lost, they will stay in your diary for follow-up. Once a manager does approve it as a lost customer and put them into the marketing database, that will then remove out of your follow-up requirements. Is that everything clear so far, guys?
Yeah, I've got 2 questions, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
First of all, could you explain to the group the 21 points? And secondly, reception, the relationship when reception tracks loads a lead, what do they do with it?
Yeah, sure. So that's as much I'll show you on the customer record for now. So I'll just pop into the reception tab. So when reception takes either a telephone call or a walk-in, maybe on a busy weekend, they're going to pop in a new call and capture a few mandatory requirements for that walk-in. So you'll see here that we have customer CN Ito. If there's a company attached, it will be there as well. And what the message was, method of contact was at a walk-in, were they inside the dealership and no one was available, and who it was passed to, and their details. So you can either, if you log it into reception, you can add that and create an inquiry. I never suggest saying completed because that will remove them without adding them into the database. Or as a receptionist, I've captured that information. I'm going to send this to a salesperson. I'm going to send it to CN salesperson and transfer. So as myself, I will see here that a lead has been transferred to me, which is this one, and it's been 36 days sitting in the reception tab, and then I can then go and start actioning that inquiry. So back on the home screen, the new leads that get allocated to you have come from management. They're split up into a few different sections or pools. So your internet leads will be your AutoGate leads, your car sales leads, your manufacturer leads will be whatever brand, and your trading prospects will be here, and your mobile quick ads. So the mobile quick ad feature on the app is actually really effective. You can capture the customer's information and then put your phone away. And once they've left and you've interacted with them, you can come back to your desktop and then pick up that lead and build an inquiry. So if I've captured them on the mobile, I can come here, or it's another lead source. I can accept that lead. And then I can go, all this information is already pre-populated and I can start building my inquiry. So the lead acceptance, I'll just run you through again. New lead, internet leads can be a car sales lead. All I'm going to do is capture that lead and build the inquiry. The notification bell up the top here is broken down into SMS. So any SMS replies from the customer that you sent to the system will be here and they'll be accessed in a notes section. Any appointments that you have are always going to come up here as a reminder, any leads and any requests. So you'll see that there's been a transfer of lead from someone else to me and I haven't accepted that for 335 days, which is unacceptable. If there's any tasks that have been allocated to you, they'll also be there. It may just be a task that a manager has set for you to action, like please set a delivery date in this customer record. So the notification center is up here. I like this tool. Magnifying glass is your global search tool. If you start typing in a customer's phone number, it'll bring up every single record that's associated with that phone number. Now, this is my system and it's my training site and I use myself a lot. So this is a lot of duplicates. Generally, there won't be any duplicates in the system. So you start typing in a first name, last name, email, rego, mobile number. That will bring up the customer record here. This little guy here is going to be your support tool. So if you ever encounter any issues where you need to reset your password or you need to ask a technical question, I'm always happy to take your call, but generally I'm in meetings or training. And so I always suggest that you contact through support. I do see every single ticket that comes through support. So if I'm available, I'll call you straight away, but our support person is amazing and she's all over it. So pop it in here. If there's any screen recordings or screenshots that you want to send us to show us any technical issues, you can always pop it through the support line. In the customers section, you can view all customers and you can break it down. So you can search for customer through name, through your initial. You can also search the customers as well, selecting whichever one. So if you want to look for a company customer, you start typing in the customer's company information and then search. If you want to search by address, it's important just to toggle on which search tool you're looking for if you're going through this. If you wanted to segregate the data to be only your customers, then just select the My Customers information and start searching. Now your overdue activities. This is going to be broken up into two sections. It's your customers who have already purchased from you and your prospects. Salespeople are notorious for focusing on their prospects because they can see a pot of gold at the end. They think, oh, I can convert that and there's going to be commission attached to that. Meanwhile, these purchase customers are your best source. So don't neglect your purchase customer follow-ups. You never know who they're sitting with, who might be in the market. You want to bring them back in. You want to keep them thinking great things and talking great things about your group. So it's really important, whilst you can see a focus and a sale attached to these, just remember, this organic reach for these purchase customers is huge. So if I go in and want to look at my prospects who aren't followed up, I'm sitting here as a manager and I can go in and say there's 110 potential customers who aren't followed up. So it's just important, whilst management never expect you to have 0 outstanding follow-ups, to be able to keep it manageable, I would definitely try to allocate 5 or 10 minutes every day just to action those outstanding follow-ups so you don't get into the point where you've got 110 outstanding follow-ups and it becomes overwhelming. Popping back into the home screen, I can show you another tool which is great and you might start to find this useful, which is your sales finder. For example, when there's a surplus of stock or there's no stock or you've just recently got a delivery and it's the end of the month and you're trying to clear some stock off the yard and you want to make some commission, you might be able to set this date range back in this retrieval list and set it back a few months. And you want to search all customers who have inquired about a car but haven't yet purchased from you and haven't told you that they've bought elsewhere, and say it's an M3 that you're trying to get rid of off the yard. These are going to be your hot leads. So these are all customers who have been looking for an M3 who you haven't been able to convert yet, but you may be able to do a good deal on it at the end of the month. So you know you can reach these 10 hot leads here, sorry, 7 hot leads who are already interested in the M3, and you can start going through and targeting them to get some of that old stock off the yard. Does it make sense, guys? Yes? No?
That sales finder feature is fantastic, especially for you guys who are looking for leads.
Yeah,
go in there
my favorite.
and go back at least like Sen said, 30, 60 days and see who's actually inquired. It's brilliant.
Yeah, so
absolutely
there's
brilliant.
Also, this is the all customers who've inquired about a car but haven't yet bought. This is cars who have offered a trade-in. So you might be like they've offered a trade-in but haven't yet bought in. And then all customer inquiries who are not yet satisfied. So, you know, used vehicles who just haven't been able to source a certain used car. And maybe they will be looking for I don't know, a used specific vehicle, which is quite hard to come by. All of a sudden there's a trade-in appearing on your lap and you're like, oh, I remember there was a customer who was looking for a Rodeo. Now I can go and find them. So then you can just search that through the date range. So I tend to do that. And these leads are quite hot, don't forget. So end of month, when stock's been sitting there for a little while, use that as a tool. Half your work's done for you already. If I pop into the dashboard, this is my training site. So I'm just going to put the filter back a little bit, change the date range. So hopefully I have some data in here to show you guys how this works. So this is going to be your sales targets. So you're going to have your manager able to see this as well. So it will be your new target. So the sales, the managers will set a target for you, and it will show you to date what you've actually done and your actuals. And this is broken down on new sales, new inquiries, and test drives. So your delivery targets will be here from the dealership. Again, this is not set as my training site, but this will show you in real time potentially how many test drives based off a 30% conversion, for example, you would need to do to hit your target of 14. So you can start to see how many bums on seats you want to try and get every single person through the door to do a test drive. The data quality is what information are you capturing that customer? What's missing? So your first name seems to be good because it's a mandatory field. Surname, it's pretty good, but sometimes it's hit and miss. The address, email, phone. This is really important to try and capture these key points for your data quality. The other thing I want to touch on, guys, is forward scheduling. So what we see with your outstanding activities, and this is why I mentioned it's not a whacking tool. So managers don't expect it to be a clean slate of zero. Days happen, busy, foot traffic through the dealership. We get that it's busy. Don't expect it to be at zero. What we do want to say to you is that there is a report that shows if you're starting to forward schedule these customers to avoid your follow-ups. I just want to let you know management can see that. So don't try and say, oh, the classic date is the 25th of December, 2050 for whatever reason. Salespeople seem to go, I don't want to mark this customer as lost. I don't want to deal with this person, but I don't want my manager to know that I'm marking them as lost or that I'm overdue. So I'm going to forward schedule this, and my next follow-up date is going to be, and you go through the actions and go next time you're going to want to contact the customer, and you start putting it through years in advance. Just know that managers get alerted to forward scheduling. So again, like I said, if you don't feel that you click with the customer and you're not going to be able to convert them and someone else has a better opportunity, always try to transfer that to a different salesperson. Don't try and beat the system by forward scheduling them because you don't want to deal with them out of sight, out of mind. You're going to get pulled up on it. So just try as your best to go through your follow-ups, not let them build up to 138. Try to, keep it under 10 and work on it in your spare time. Your daily log is going to show you everything that you've done for the day. So you'll be able to see what the customer details that you contacted, who the salesperson was, which is yourself, if there's any new inquiries, test drives, sales, deliveries, and follow-ups. So you'll be able to see all your follow-ups here. That's why I said to you, it's super important when you make contact with a customer, even if you try to give them the telephone call follow-up and they don't answer, to always mark the telephone and the X to say that you didn't get through, because it will still show as an activity for your day. So if your manager says, how many follow-ups have you done today? What have you done? It will actually count towards your activity count. So always keep that in mind. You might have called them today and you're going to action it again tomorrow and try and attempt to contact the customer. Please mark that as not being able to get through to them. Don't just try and change the date on the diary entry. The other thing is the next contact date. Now, if you've had a customer come in for a test drive, it's not appropriate if they've been in today for you to contact them in 2024, for example. So you need to learn about the appropriate timeframes to contact the customer. So with a test drive, it's usually a 24-hour post-test drive follow-up. And just remember just to try and keep appropriate timeframes with the next contact date. So because managers will see this and make sure that you're appropriately timing your next follow-up. That's a bit of an overload of what you need to do as far as a salesperson, but the main things that you do need to focus on is obviously how to add in a new customer, what fields you need to capture, how to action your overdue activities, purchase customers, for example, how to action those, so go into the customer record and action those follow-ups. So you can come in here and create a new diary entry and you contact them by telephone, next, and then create your next contact for that customer. So it's really important to stay on top of your overdue activities, accepting new leads. The leads are timed from the date the dealership receives the leads to the time that the manager allocates them to you and the time that you first contact that customer. So every half an hour or so, when you have an opportunity, it's really good to start actioning those leads that are sitting here, because thinking about it, a customer could be on the internet, they make an inquiry, they don't hear from you for an hour, they could jump in their car and go down to the dealership down the road. So really important to action these leads when they come in. Andrew, any other questions just for the first session on sales training?
21 points.
21 points, okay. So have you guys allocated that, Andrew, to the sales team already? The KPIs?
I think so. I'm not too sure. I'll double check on that.
So 21 points is a system which was implemented years ago with the salespeople. Where have I got that? Wait, hang on a second.
Diary.
Oh no, I don't think it's in the diary section. It's is it? Yes, sorry, you're right. Gosh. Okay. So the 21 points is a system which we saw implemented in the automotive industry years ago, and it was based off the activity. So when I was explaining to you about actioning all those activity, there is some 21 points for success. So however many follow-ups that you do, so there could be 2 points of value for here, or actual, and then your follow-ups, test drive, sales, and delivery, they're all allocated to you from the dealership. And this is going to show you, so all of your NC1, so your new customers, all of your follow-ups, however many test drives you've done, are going to show you your some results analysis. So you'll see here there's been 1 new customer, you've done 6 follow-ups. Again, importance to just track that. How many test drives you've done, sales and deliveries. So the 21 key points to success is how many touch points you do, whether that's a telephone call, whether that's a test drive, whether that's actually doing a sale or making a delivery. So think about every single one of these as being an activity that you're doing on a customer. Does that make sense?
And the whole aim is to achieve 21 points every day. Is that correct?
That's what we try to, we try to set that as a key indicator. So you can think of it as a KPI, but it's not necessarily a KPI. It's just showing you based on conversion rates with test drives. Like I said, it was around 33%. The more test drives that you do, the higher your conversion rate is going to be. So the 21 points thing is going to be your driver to say, well, I need to do, I need to do 90 test drives in a month to convert, 30 or 40. So if you're getting to the point where it's end of month and you're not reaching your targets, you need to focus really on getting those test drives done and doing those follow-ups. So it's really just an indicator. And I think I showed you on that report here on the targets. It's an indicator. This is not a good example because I don't have any data in here, but it's a really good indicator. So if you say you got a new sales target of 5 cars per month, if I can say to today, looking at this dashboard, I've only done 2, my actual will be 2. So I know that I have 3 more cars to sell. So I know that I'm best off doing 9 test drives to try to get those 3 converted. This will also show you like your test drives, your inquiries, and then your conversion rates here.